Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're tackling a seriously fascinating piece of Chapter 28 from Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma. Specifically, we're looking at a concept called the Night of the Sun. Now, I know what you're thinking. You hear night and your brain immediately goes to, heavy metal armor, swords, maybe a dragon or two. Well, actually, scratch that image completely. The Night of the Sun isn't some historical warrior at all. It's a mindset. It's this super accessible, practical guide to intellectual growth and everyday enlightenment. So let's jump right into this explainer and see how these big, timeless philosophical ideas actually apply to how we think, how we learn, and just how we navigate our daily lives.
So, I want you to really think about this for a second. Do you actively seek out knowledge, or do you kind of just passively accept the information that washes over you all day? Because, let's be honest, in our modern world, it is incredibly easy to just scroll, absorb, and accept. It's almost like we're sleepwalking through this massive barrage of data. But the source material here really challenges us to break that habit. It's asking us, hey, are you truly awake and aware, or are you just cruising on autopilot? To actually adopt the mindset of this night, the very first thing we have to do is wake up.
And that brings us right to Section 1, the night's mindset, waking up in the dark.
Imagine that incredibly disorienting feeling of waking up in a pitch-black, completely unfamiliar room. You have absolutely no idea where the door is, and you literally can't even see your own hands in front of your face. That state of absolute darkness, that's the starting line. It's the baseline state of ignorance before we even begin our intellectual journey. You see, enlightenment isn't about, floating cross-legged on a cloud somewhere. It's simply the act of finally being able to see that dark room clearly. It's pure awareness, clarity of thought, and independent understanding. It's all about figuring out your surroundings for yourself rather than just taking someone else's word for what's in the room.
Which leads us to Section 2, turning on the light, the pursuit of knowledge. Think about it. If you wake up in the dark, you don't just sit there frozen, right? No, you're sliding your hands along the walls, desperately trying to find a light switch. And the pursuit of knowledge is that exact same active effort. It requires learning continuously. You basically can't ever stop moving your hands. You've got to question your assumptions too, like testing if a table is actually there before you accidentally walk right into it. And you must constantly expand your understanding. Becoming the Night of the Sun means you actively seek knowledge. It takes real effort. It's a total refusal to just stay in the dark. Now, the text talks a whole lot about light as this grand, almost epic symbol, right? Moving toward the light, away from ignorance. But let's bring that down to earth for a minute. Imagine that everyday sensation of waking up with super blurry vision and finally putting on your glasses. Oh man, the relief. That sudden, sharp clarity where the whole world just snaps right into focus. That is exactly what intellectual illumination actually feels like. It's the practical, incredibly satisfying clarity of finally understanding something on a deep level.
Moving right along to Section 3, the search for truth, finding the map.
Okay, so you flip the switch, you put your glasses on, and right there, sitting in the center of the room, you find a map. But listen, just because you found a map doesn't mean it's actually accurate. As the text so powerfully puts it, truth must be sought, not assumed. I want to just slow down for a second and let that really sink in. Truth must be sought, not assumed. Just because someone handed you a map or you happen to find it sitting right there in the light doesn't mean it perfectly matches the reality of the room or the outside world. Verifying that map, well, that takes deliberate, painstaking work.
So, how exactly do you verify this map? Well, reason guides knowledge. You've got to use logical thinking, careful analysis, and a really strict evaluation of ideas. And hey, these aren't just fancy academic terms. They are literally your survival tools for navigating the room without blindly walking into the coffee table. You use logic and analysis to ground your curiosity, making absolutely sure that the truth you're chasing actually holds up when you put it under the microscope. Next up is Section 4, breaking the chains, opening the front door.
All right, so you've illuminated the room, you've examined the map, and you've used reason to verify it. But then it hits you. You aren't actually trapped in this single room. You can walk right up to the front door of this house, reach out, and turn the lock. The source text really hammers home that freedom of thought is absolutely essential here. Think of it as the exact sensation of physically untying a blindfold that someone else tied around your head and finally choosing to see the world with your own two eyes. It's that massive shift from being told what to see to observing reality completely for yourself.
But what actually unlocks that front door? Well, it requires questioning established ideas, exploring totally new perspectives, and above all, avoiding blind belief.
You have to be willing to look at the traditions and the dogmas you were handed and ask, wait, is this actually true? The Knight values independent thinking above literally everything else. Avoiding blind belief is the exact mechanism that turns the deadbolt, allowing that heavy front door to finally swing wide open.
And that brings us to Section 5, a never-ending journey, the endless outside world.
As the Knight steps through that door, they realize something incredibly humbling. The room they just illuminated, yeah, that was only the very beginning. The outside world is vast, it's complex, and it's full of endless landscapes to explore. The pursuit of truth does not stop at the front porch. Enlightenment is not a destination, folks. It is a lifelong process. You never really arrive at enlightenment where you can just kick back and say, okay, cool, I know everything now. The landscape of the world is constantly shifting, which means your internal map has to be constantly adapted and updated right along with it.
So I want to pose a question to you directly, much like the source text prompts us to do. How often do you question your own beliefs? Seriously, are you continually updating your internal maps, taking in new data, and applying logical analysis? Or are you kind of clinging tightly to old maps drawn by someone else, stubbornly refusing to look at the shifting terrain right in front of your own eyes? It's a really tough question, I know, but it's an absolutely necessary one for anyone who genuinely wants to be awake.
Enlightenment is not given. How will you earn it today? As the Knight of the Sun teaches us, no one can just hand you awareness or clarity on a silver platter. It has to be earned through relentless questioning, continuous learning, and just an unwavering commitment to the truth. So step out of the dark, turn on the light, and ask yourself, what will I learn today? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you next time as we continue to break down these incredible ideas.